Alright YouTube, here's a quick video, Occult video 128 about Tulpas. Now, the reason why it's going to be quick is because there's not really that much actually to say about this. Most Western individuals who have expressed interest in the topic deeply misunderstand it, don't understand what it means at all, are misusing the concept, stretching it well beyond the boundaries of human imagination into something that's pure fiction. Now, the basic concept is similar to the egregore, the thought form, or the servitor, something along those lines from sort of the modern evocation factions within the occult, which in turn are, partially based on Eastern lore. Comes from Buddhism, and it is the idea of a thought form that takes root, becomes, if not tangible or intelligent, at least possessed of action, the capability of some sort of effect upon the tangible world, something along those lines. But most people who express an interest in the subject, as well as the subject, honestly, of the egregore in many cases, take it to mean that if they think about, beat off to, or ruminate upon the existence or possible future existence of their anime waifu, that it makes them real. And they do. Some of these people are doing it unironically. Now, there are always people who will pretend they'll, egg others on to do stupid shit. It's like you get a bunch of people gathered around the electric fence. One person's like, oh, maybe I should take a whiz on the electric fence. And there are other people standing around. They know it's not a good idea, but they egg them on anyway. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Oh, man, this is going to be so funny. We'll get it on video. Put it on Funniest Home Videos or something like that. Slap it onto YouTube. It'll be viral sensation. Likewise, with tulpas, there are plenty of inauthentic fluff bunny sort of individuals who think that it means, oh, if I just think about my anime girlfriend or something enough, that it'll materialize somehow in the real world. I can have psychic sex with them, maybe number one. Maybe number two, I meet someone who's exactly like them, through synchronicity. Number three, maybe when I fucking keel over, it'll become part of some otherworldly post-life reality or something like that. That's not exactly what it means. You're trying to take a fictional, incorporeal thing, envision it on your own, without any groupthink, whatever, involved with it, and make it tangible. Now, if that were actually capable of happening, this would be a really, really interesting world, because there'd be all sorts of weird shit in it. There'd be dragons. There'd certainly be literal magic in the low magic sort of fling your wand around and shoot fireballs from it sense. There'd be all sorts of angels and demons and ghosts and goblins and shit wandering around. It would be it'd be like living in a fantasy novel, if that were capable of happening. Clearly, that's not actually the case. There are plenty of things that the occult can do. Synchronicity is real. Memetics is real. Propaganda operates on a spiritual basis. There are otherworldly entities that exist. There are strange energies and things that science cannot explain. There's a lot of weird shit in this world. I think they just redeveloped the concept of frozen hydrogen, of all things. I was always led to believe that it was impossible for them to do that. Of course, nothing within science truly is impossible within a physical sense, but we'll leave that for a future video. With the thought of tulpas, that the human mind is a sort of interactive vessel, can interact with its own imagination and bring forth a servitor or something along those lines, with individual effort only, for no actual deep-seated purpose but physical pleasure, is not part of that actual tradition. So I'm sorry to all the people on 4chan's X, the paranormal page, trying to create these mental girlfriends and cause them to come into reality. Yeah, it's not actually going to happen, bro. Sorry about that. You'll have to find a 3D individual to actually date. Some of you will have less of difficulty with this than others. But you're going to have to do that, because imagining your anime character or whatever in your head does not actually make it tangibly real. Okay, maybe the only way around this, I will make one aside, is with psychedelics. Because, of course, I fornicated with what seemed like a very, very real physical being on Salvia once, and it wasn't actually there, it was just my bed. But there was no fucking way to tell the difference, feeling-wise, emotion-wise, or anything under the sun. So I suppose if you intoxicate yourself enough on the right substances, yeah, okay, sorta, but it's hit or miss. Maybe only one time out of 100 does that even happen, so kind of pointless, I suppose. And I think it's illegal now to take anyway in most states, and certainly is in most countries. Like when I did it, it was legal. So, I mean, I can openly admit to it. Yeah, I used Salvia Divinorum. It was great. Used it many, many dozens. I might have used it 100 times. Did all sorts of weird stuff, and it was illegal. So Uncle Sam can't actually complain about that, nor can anybody on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, it did happen. I've talked about this before. But I don't pretend that it's part of some occult ritual. I find it an interesting phenomenon, something certainly that I wrote about. I believe I put it in, if I remember correctly, the Principles of Sonic Occultism. I had an aside about that particular event, although it may have been psychedelic spirituality. Actually, it was the latter. It was psychedelic spirituality that I put that in. A very strange thing, but not necessarily, strictly speaking, part of occultism. Tulpas in the Eastern tradition are not the same as what many Westerners would understand them to be. The basic principle within Eastern traditions is to spurn physicality, to embrace true spirituality, as they'd say, to release yourself from the physical mortal coil, because they see like the body is a prison. But these people are trying to manifest some sort of sexual object for physical gratification purposes on the tangible plane. Never gonna work. If you believe in the tradition that gave the source of this actual sub-tradition, then you would be spurning physicality and probably be doing nofap or something like that, honestly, for spiritual development purposes, something along those lines. That's honestly what you'd be doing. So that's my thoughts about tulpas. If you don't understand the tradition, this is why I say you need to study the history of magic, not just the more do-it-yourself, hands-on approach of magic. Like, oh, I got this spell book. That's fine, but do you know the history of the spell book? Do you know what culture it came from? Do you know what time period it's from? Do you know what came before it that might have influenced it? Do you understand the primordial spiritual traditions that it may have, over time, developed from? If you don't, then you know less about the occult than someone who studied even the literary tradition's history itself. You can go back centuries and centuries and centuries and sort of delineate where these things are coming from. I'm obsessed with trying to trace the history of these oracle works, which I've been doing for some time. I think I found a work from the mid-1700s that may have started it all, but I mean, I've got to fully research it and everything associated with it before I can even make that determination. There could be some old work that's no longer extant that gave a source to that from 100 years before. It could be from the Renaissance. So it can be difficult, but it's definitely worthy. It's a worthy endeavor to know these things, to use your knowledge for a spiritual purpose. If you don't have that knowledge, if you don't know where something's coming from, you're just like, oh, tulpas, oh, this sounds cool. Well, you don't even know where the tradition comes from, so how the hell are you supposed to actually properly work that aspect of occultism? It never happen. Never work. That's about all. Peace out.